Boy, howdy, has it been a week to 2 weeks? Oh boy, there won't be a Crows this week. Don't worry, just some life got in the way / COVID. But Crows will return next week. This is the first episode of our other show, Omen's Call. Give it a shot if you want. Bye-bye, see you next Monday. Hey everybody, I'm Caleb Sunstead, your host and game master. Thank you for listening to Omen's Call. We are a D&D 5th edition actual play set in Kobold Press's Midgard. You don't need to know anything about D&D or actual plays or Midgard in order to enjoy this podcast. We're going to introduce all of those things and our characters through play. We will release every other week on Wednesdays, at least for the time being. All music on the show is provided courtesy of Danheim, and the show is made in association with Kobold Press. And now that that's out of the way, welcome to Midgard. It's day as the camera opens. In the far distance, we can see the reaching mountains, far in the northlands. All around us, the ground is covered in snow as the camera pans down. Past it, ravens fly. And as they pass the camera, we can see dozens of tents and wagons set up in the traveling caravan of the ill omens. The smell of the evening stew and roasting game fills the air, and movement is everywhere. The atmosphere is one of laughter, training, and armor being repaired. We can hear it being repaired in the distance by metal on metal clanging. And as we pull down further to the ground, we can see this snow has been stomped to black slush. We stop in front of a large tent. An old thing, weathered. A patchwork of hide and furs, and above it hangs the banner of the ill omens. Its design is simple, black on white, a raven flying upwards, escaping from a creature below it, a two-headed monstrosity. The heads, a wolf's and a dying ram. We cut inside to the hide floor, and we pan upwards, and then slowly turn around the room. We can hear the fire crackling that sits at the middle of this place, and we pan past 13 chairs. 8 of them are filled. Most are symmetrical, almost identical, except for one chair. It's old, weathered, and in every inch of the old oak thing is carved in the faces of 1,000 different animals. We hear a character talking mid-conversation. These are good lands for hunting. It's my recommendation that we stay here at least 3 days in order for my hunters to build us up 2 weeks of supplies. It cuts to the other side of the room, where Einir stands. He's a middle-aged human. He's got shiny armor on. There's no other way to describe it. It's silver, buffed to a shine. It's almost like a mirror. His chest is puffed out as he talks, even sitting in his chair, and he's importantly writing notes in the small notebook he's holding in his hands. His greasy hair falls down around his face as he brushes it out of the way and smiles at the hunter across from him with an annoying smirk. Aye, that sounds great to me. 13, all in favor? Aye. Einir raises his hand.
The camera pans over to a young man sitting around this large table. His face is weathered with long years out in the sun and in the cold conditions. He has a tattoo of a Nordic symbol of protection around his right eye, and long, dirty blonde hair and a beard that has been braided. He sits in furs, chainmail, and leathers, with some of his hair hanging down into his face, and he raises his hand as well. Bjorn then speaks out. I think that moving along soon would be best. We need to find a good place to settle down for the winter. The later it gets, the harder it gets to find a patron.
There are murmurs of agreement as most of the 13 that are present raise their hands in agreement.
A large gray-skinned trollkin woman sits across the table from Bjorn, her bright gold eyes staring daggers at him. She has pointed ears and teeth to match. Her fiery red hair reaches the small of her back. It's tied back in a dwarven braid and secured with a hair clip made of jade, though several strands have come loose and frame her soft and scarless face. She speaks up alongside the others. But no more than 3 days. We can't afford the time.
We're agreed, Einir says dismissively. The hands are lowered down, and Einir speaks up again. He sort of runs his right hand through his hair as he speaks, kind of letting his notebook fall. I agree with Bjorn. Even if you capture enough food for 2 weeks, we're in a position now where if we don't do something soon, if we don't secure someone that can harbor us for the coming winter, I don't know what to say.
We're all aware of the problem, Einar. Do you have any suggestions?
First of all, Thane, I'm not the only one on this council. There's 13 of us. A little less than half of us aren't even here, including our commander. And he looks over to Bjorn.
Aye. If he was doing his job, he wouldn't be in this position in the first place. You always look for a patron before it starts to get cold. We are far less likely to find somebody who's going to feed us through the winter if we haven't already done work for them.
And we've had a lot of opportunities too. The commander's just turned them down for no good reason.
Just because you don't know them doesn't mean he doesn't have his reasons.
Well, I would know his reasons if he were here to explain them. But it's been nigh on 2 weeks now, hasn't it?
It's been longer than that.
And that chair's still empty. And he points to the chair covered in the carvings.
I've only been here a few months and I've been to twice as many meetings as he has. And he doesn't even speak when he's here. He just shows up, he sits in his comfortable chair, and he lets us do all the work for him.
What exactly are you two suggesting?
There's been a uncomfortable silence building in the room among the rest of the 13, and as Thane says that, all eyes are drawn to Bjorn.
I'm saying that it might be time for a change.
Aye. It's time. If the commander can't do his job, at least for now, let's replace him until whatever sickness he's had, it can be healed. We need someone that can take us forward and actually save us from this winter that's going to kill us all.
Aye, and he doesn't train, he doesn't fight. He's hardly a commander at all.
Thane stands up from her chair, tossing her raven feather cloak over her shoulder, revealing dented and scraped splint mail underneath it. And who is going to fill that position? You, Bjorn? Or you, Einar? Does anyone here feel qualified to lead the Omens and find a patron before we all freeze to death?
Listen, I'm the first that'll tell you that I'm not going to be a great commander.
That's at least something we can agree on.
There's a moment where Bjorn and Thane just kind of stare at each other. You can see a vein starting to pop out of Bjorn's forehead. He kind of crosses his arms, obviously flexing and trying to make himself look imposing. Aye, I guess that is something that we agree on. Now why don't we try to get some work done? We need to find a place, and we need a commander to do it.
Then we should gather the remaining 5, including the commander. That is something that, as was pointed out, more than 50% of the council needs to decide on.
They could have been here if they wanted to be here. These are dire times, and we need to take immediate action.
When do we ever have the entire council present, Einar?
Exactly. And you want to get them here now for what? For a vote we should have made 2 months ago. Listen, no, none of us could be the commander that Vignir was. There's no one on this council that could take the place that he has left. But the best candidate, he kind of like puffs up his chest and kind of like takes a step out as he steps up from his chair, is Bjorn. And he looks over to Bjorn.
Bjorn is still standing. He kind of takes a moment to take that in and just shakes his head. No, absolutely not. I am not in a position to be the next commander.
You're damn right. All eyes turn to the entrance of the tent, where the commander, Vignir, has entered. He's an old dwarf with faded blue tattoos covering his face and arms. He's got a floppy warhawk that once stood tall and proud, but now hangs loose, and the sides of his head, once shaved, are now messy and patchy and unkempt as the hair has grown back around his scars. In his right hand, he's holding an axe with a flat top that he's almost using to prop himself up in the doorway, and he wears a stern expression.
I'm glad the 13 care more about an old dwarf than the people they are sworn to protect.
Biom kind of turns and makes eye contact with the commander. It's the people we're trying to protect, Commander.
The job of the 13, Biom, is to be here when I cannot. And since I have not been here...
He kind of starts to talk again, but stops himself for a second, and he puts his left hand up to his mouth, closes his eyes, takes a second, and then lowers it and opens his eyes again.
What have you done in my absence? Any of you, to solve our problems for the coming winter?
And he makes eye contact with everyone, ending on Thane.
What's the scouts, leader of the scouts' name?
Astrid.
Astrid needs 3 more days to gather enough supplies for us to move out. We at least decided that much, although where we're going, well, we need a little more direction on that.
Does anyone have any ideas?
Summerhold's not too far from here. They're large enough to be able to support us, but I don't know if they're going to accept us, but it might be a good place to move.
He thinks about it for a minute.
Do you know why I have not brought up Summerhold before?
No, you haven't been at a council meeting.
They were a patron once upon a time. They are dishonorable and superstitious. We cannot trust them.
Commander, with all due respect, we need somebody, some patron at this point. Do you have someone else in mind?
I have been waiting for guidance.
He gives a slight smile.
I think you are all stuck in your ways. I think we have done the same thing for too many years. I think it is time there was flesh blood in the 13. I propose Zaros to replace one of you.
There's kind of a angry murmuring, and Einir, who's been standing this whole time, kind of gives a frustrated gesture at the commander. That half-giant, that's who you want.
Aye, the one who reads the omens and looks to the sky for answers to his life's questions.
If you've got a problem with the superstitious, that's a bad place to look.
I support this move.
I'm sure you would. You're just a couple of half-bloods. Probably get along just great.
I might carry 2 different bloods inside me. Zaros is a Goliath, not some half-giant.
Depends on who you ask.
We cut to an overhead shot, looking down on mostly snowy terrain below. As it comes down, we can see that almost a perfect circle has been sort of cleared away of snow. You can see a bit of the ground underneath peeking through, although some of the white still remains. Stones are placed around in a ritualistic pattern, and at the center of it, a stack of standing stones, a cairn. We cut to the ground to see a smaller trollkin than the one we saw in the camp just moments ago. She's a little under 6 feet, with red hair sort of loosely flowing around her eyes, which are a sharp contrast as they are gold. Her ears are pointed and her teeth sharp, but her nose is small and button-like. She's wearing a white soot-stained tunic, and she's got the sleeves rolled up above a forest green skirt. And in her hands, she's holding a large shield, which she places next to the stones. Marshall, what does the shield look like?
Well, it's slightly larger than your average round shield. It's got 4 bands across it, and there are 8, looks like maybe dwarven, with some extra sort of runes in it along each band through the spindle of sorts. And at the center, there's a Thor's hammer.
She places it with a bit of a reverence next to the stones, and then she takes a few steps back. She smiles and like twirls and looks around this clearing, this small grove, this small thicket of trees. Seeing no one, her smile fades, and then she moves to the stones and sits.
I think she sits there for a little while, and a few moments later, she can probably hear the soft crunch of snow. Heavy footfalls, uneven, as Zaros steps out from behind the shade of a tree nearby. He's large, quite massive actually. At this point from here you can see he's probably a little over 7 feet, maybe 7'4". Broad frame, any bit of skin you see, he's got angular features, and he's got a stern, distant gaze on his face. Piercing blue-violet eyes as he sort of searches the clearing and sees the work that his companion has made. And as he turns to the camera's right, we see his face has 4 large claw scratches, scars even, from the jaw to the crown of his skull, splitting part of his lip, almost cutting his eye, and taking up quite a predominant sort of real estate on his face. It looks like some sort of massive creature must have done something to him. He continues walking forward with a bit of a gait, limping on the right leg, and he's got a large bear cloak that drags behind him. He's picking up some of the snow. It's a silver black bear pelt. He's still got the head connected. He wears it as a bit of a hood, and beneath it we see not much of a glint, but some ruddy, weather-worn bronze armor. It looks like it's dwarven made, and you can see that it hasn't been kept very well. It's kind of patinaed. It looks like maybe the salty sea air might have done some work on it, and so it looks kind of dark blue and a little teal in places, especially around the grooves. He walks forward.
Zaros, I did it. How does it look?
Oh, thank you, Gloa. This should do fine. Here, I've got just this last piece. And he pulls a large, flat rock. Looks like it's got bits of mica strung throughout it. And he'll walk across and place it at the top of this cairn. And sort of satisfied with everything, he sort of reaches into his pouch on his side, pulls out what looks like, to the audience, probably like a cashew. Pops in his mouth, sort of chews on it, thinking, well, all right. You said you need me to look for your friend, find some things out, so let's get to this. If I could have you skit just a little further back, please.
Oh, yeah. Gloa, the trollkin, like shuffles back out of the circle until her feet are sort of up to ankles in snow. And then she realizes she's been holding her breath, kind of exhales, breathes back in, and mutters under her breath, I hope this works.
Zaros will silently nod back to her, and he'll sit on his knees in front of the shield. He'll pull out a fistful of stones, and we get just a little bit closer to him as it cuts in close. You hear him say, Ivalmio thrum erokladin, daofrum narvak, ozothak, nahi goran oz makarimar, nahi ayar oz daradov. And he'll throw the stones onto his shield and sort of wait for a moment. We're searching for a friend. Hey, Mildred?
Yeah. Mildred, Millie.
Yes. Oh, Stormlord, please tell me, is our friend safe? And I think there's no response for a moment. We don't see anything. And then there's a sound of distant thunder rolling from beyond the mountains. And Zarasor furrows his brow. Well, young one, I don't want you to be alarmed.
Okay.
This does not look good. Your friend, she took off before she was ready.
Yeah. I mean, she just left. She didn't tell anybody.
I think if you care for this person, do you have any idea where she would have gone? Did she speak with you at all about these plans?
It's supposed to be a secret. You know how how friends make oaths to each other. Wouldn't it be dishonorable to tell you what she said to me?
This is true, yes, and I think that if you weren't so worried about her, to the point that you'd have me looking for her, we're beyond any sort of dishonorable actions. You're doing this with best intentions, yes?
Yes, very much so.
Well, an oath is no good if the oath keeper is dead.
She breathes in, looks at the ground. She tightens her hands into fists for a moment, sighs deeply, and says, I think I can at least tell you where she went. You know that village we were just in, west of here? I think it was Selvagir.
Is that where we were? Yes, I recall it.
Yeah, she had a reason to go back there. I think that's probably where she is.
Have you told anyone else about this?
No, I made a promise, but now with this, I mean, who do we tell?
Hear me. And he'll put a big, meaty, it's like a gray-blue skin of his big, kind of a bear claw at this point, hand on her shoulder. I can respect that you want to keep this for your friend. But things are tough for us as already. The land around here doesn't seem like it would have enough food for this whole camp, let alone if it keeps getting colder. If she's by herself, I fear she will not survive. We'll find her frozen somewhere if we are not fast. There's got to be someone else in camp we can speak with.
With that, a wolf comes bounding out of the woods. Katie, what does this wolf look like?
The wolf is larger than the average wolf, snow white fur in a coarse texture, with a black nose and copper eyes. Both ears should be pricked up, but one of them is notched and ever so slightly tilted, as it bounds into this clearing without thought, pause, falter, or grace.
Zaros, you've had run-ins in the past, I think, with this creature, and for some reason, unbeknownst to you, it just loves you. It bounds straight towards you and jumps up on you. And this is not like a domesticated dog, as you would think of it. This is a wild wolf. So when this wolf jumps up on you, this almost 6-foot long wolf, for any other member, almost any other member of the Ill Omens, this would be a thing that would put you on a back foot or something. But for Zaros, it's just nothing.
Yeah, luckily he's sitting at probably about 340, 350. So when this wolf comes bounding and leaps at him, Zaros actually sort of grabs him into a hug and sort of play wrestles and throws him to the ground, drops to one knee and starts rubbing his chest and belly. Oh, Cozy, it's good to see you. But if you're here, where is your mommy?
From the woods, there's this oncoming stream of profanity, just lacing its way through the woods with snapping branches and grumbles as Freya makes it to the clearing and breaks through the trees. She's petite for a northerner at about 5'5", with her silver blonde plaited hair hanging with its bone loops on either side of her face. Her piercing blue eyes are narrowed in a glare at the wolf, just enjoying his belly rubs. By Winter's Fang, what are you doing out here? There was a council meeting, you're supposed to be part of it, and how in hell's name did... What are you doing out here?
Oh, well, Freya, it's good to see you.
It's my fault. He was helping me out, Gloa says, kind of wringing her hands.
That's all well and good, but I don't like going into the woods with this damn wolf. I think it killed like 3 bunnies or something.
Well, that's good. Did you keep them, or did he eat them?
No, he likes to mangle them.
That is unfortunate. It would have made a good lunch. I heard about the meeting. I always feel like they don't want me there.
Well, they certainly made it apparent from whatever transpired in there. Not privy to it and all, but they certainly wanted you there today.
It's still going on?
Well, it seems to be suspended right now because of Zoros' absence.
Are you really that big of a deal? I thought kind of...
Apparently.
I could not say. I help where I can, so...
Well, we need to talk to someone anyway, right?
Yes, of course, I see. Yes, you come with us. And we
Yeah.
will tell the council about your friend, and I'm sure they will be able to help us. And maybe we have some resources we can go descend and find her.
Yeah. If you want something, you just have to ask for it. And she starts walking towards the camp.
I think Zaros will sort of watch her leave for a second. And, well, all right, Freya, I suppose we shall go, yes?
I guess so. I was hoping to get more hunting done today, but apparently I had to go on Zoroth finding missions.
Well, I'm sorry that, I inconvenienced you. But if you need help tracking in the future, you can ask me. And Zaros will walk back over and pick up his shield and sling it across his back. Let's head out.
We cut back to the tent of the 13, where they are deep in heated, almost combative discussion / argument over which of the 13 is going to be replaced by the newcomer, Zaros.
Do you not think we need fresh blood in here, Biome? Is that what you are arguing?
I'm the freshest blood. I've only been here a few months, 3 months.
And we have not but a few more months before this whole company goes to hell.
Listen, Commander, with all due respect, I agree with you here. I just don't see... Well, I suppose we could get rid of Jonah. She hasn't really been doing much, but...
Cut to Jonah in the corner, like visibly upset and shocked, and then back to the commander.
It is true she was replaced as our head scout. Perhaps you are right. I don't care. All I know is heads need to roll.
Cutting into the room is the 13-year-old figure of Gloa, and she speaks loudly and confidently across the room to Thane. Mother, I have a problem. And she stops mid-sentence as she realizes the room she's in, and she realizes the commander is here, and the rest of the 13 present sort of stop their conversations and turn their eyes towards the tent's entrance.
Thane's eyes widened when Gloa first entered and began to speak, and then she can't help it. Her lips start to curl back in a pointed tooth smile at the interruption, and how that, of all things, is what caused the council to go silent for a moment. She's going to stand up again and say, "Excuse me, I'll be right back," and start walking over to Gloa.
Aye, I'm sure that's more important. And then Biome kind of turns and starts resuming the conversation.
As Biome turns around, the camera shot is on him talking, and in the background, the camera shifts focus to see Thane walk up to Gloa. Mildred is missing. I think she went back to that last town we were in.
Biome kind of turns around and starts to pay a little bit more attention to the conversation, but, keeps his distance.
What do you mean? What do you mean she's missing? It's been a week since we were last there.
I know, and I know this is strange, but I promised her that I wouldn't say she was leaving. So I'm not telling you that. I'm just telling you that Millie wanted to go there, and she's gone.
If you made that kind of promise, I'm guessing you're not telling me this lightly.
No.
Can you tell me how much trouble do you think she's in?
According to Zaros, a lot. And she turns to the towering figure.
To the door as Zaros sort of ducks his head to walk into the large tent here.
And any conversation that was still occurring before this moment completely stops when he enters.
Oh, hello, Thunderstep. It's good to see you.
Zaros?
Yeah, yes, it's as she says. I questioned the Norns to see if they had something to say. And they believe this Mildred is fated to die soon if nothing changes. She was not prepared to leave this way.
Thane hesitates for a moment and then turns back towards the council. Is everybody silent as Zaros had entered, right?
Yes, yeah.
I'm guessing you caught at least some of that. We have a member of the caravan missing. We need to send some people back to Selvagir to retrieve her.
We are in dire times. If one of our own wants to go running off into the wilds, it is up to them to defend themselves.
Commander, she's a child.
Then who can we spare, Thane?
Biom kind of shifts uncomfortably on his feet. There's a moment where we get a shot of his face, and he looks concerned, but concerned in the way that he's trying to hide it from other people around him. He kind of glances up towards the commander. Commander, I'm not really doing anything. I've been training, but I mean, my squad is well trained, and they know how to train themselves. I can go. It'll be one less mouth to feed, right?
His normally stern and unflinching face raises a single eyebrow.
And I wouldn't make the suggestion without being willing to go myself.
Fine. Fine. It is 5 days there, 5 days back. We will move on without you.
Where?
We will head east to Yargard. With the whole of the Omens, should take us about 2 weeks. So, perhaps you will catch us before we arrive.
We're gonna need a scout, a tracker. Astrid?
Yeah, you turn to Astrid. She turns her head towards you. I don't think we've described her yet, but she's got pulled back braided white hair, and she's got like pretty severe cataracts. You know, she kind of looks past you as she looks in your direction, and in her hands she's been nervously whittling away on a stick into the rough shape of a flute. We're still going to stay here for 3 days. You can't have a single one of my hunters. I need them all.
You need all of them.
I mean, fine. If you want a tracker, take your pick.
Well, I don't mean to step out of line, but Freya came and found me just a few moments ago before we came. Perhaps she and her wolf could come with us?
Biom starts walking towards the door, past Zaros, and he puts a hand up on his shoulder, which is almost hilarious considering that Biom is only 5'10". He reaches up and puts a hand on his shoulder and says, "Well, Zaros, I don't think it's out of line, seeing as you're part of the 13 now."
Zaros furrows his brow again. I'm sorry, what's this?
Cut to Jonah in the corner packing up her things.
I don't understand what you mean.
Talk to the commander.
Perhaps once we get this figured out. Will you come?
Aye.
We've got Shieldbreaker, Freya. I would like to volunteer. I was the one who saw that things might not go well, and, well, if there's anything about us, we don't take stock in fate too often. But let's make sure this time.
And I think I know a fifth just stupid enough to join us.
Jump cut to an over-the-shoulder shot of a hand stained black from a charcoal pencil from which it holds as it begins to sketch something inside of a makeshift sort of notebook. The camera slowly zooms out to reveal the subject, a deer, long dead at this point. The shot shifts a little further out. You see a side shot of this young human man in his early 20s, but his face and stature would lead many to believe he's even younger. He's created sort of a makeshift chair with his large rucksack and his shield, which he's propped up against it. He's sitting with his legs stretched outward. He wears a gray woolen cap. Just a few loose strands of sandy brown hair kind of peek out on the top right of his brow. To match that, he wears sort of dusky gray, worn leather armor. Nothing fancy. Underneath, you can see kind of peeking through a quilted coat, as well as sort of quilted long johns. In the background, you can see the tents of the ill omens, smoke rising up into the cold air, as you see he's just kind of on the outskirts of this camp.
Hey, Avery.
Thane, I thought we weren't leaving for a few days.
Plans changed.
Plans changed, eh? Are we going out?
Gotta head back to Selvigir. There's a lost girl out there. Thought you might want in.
A lost girl?
Yeah.
It's not a...
No, Gloa's. And she looks back over her shoulder where Gloa's been trailing behind. the group of us. We can see that Thane now has a large backpack stuffed with provisions currently over her shoulders and has a wooden scabbard containing a short sword at her side.
Well, all right then. Count me in.
We knew that you'd be in. You're always easy to convince.
We see Avery look up, and we cut over his shoulder once again to see Biome has walked up and the rest of the group trailing just a little ways behind him.
Well, Avery, go get your stuff.
Already got it. It's all packed up in me bag.
You're always ready for a fight, Avery. That's why I like you. And Biome kind of laughs a little bit and starts marching off.
Well, I'm honored that you came to me. I really do appreciate it.
Well, we couldn't spare anybody important. They get to move on.
Oh, she got you there. She got you there, lad.
Regardless of the reason, I'm just happy to come along. Hopefully we'll find us soon.
The group starts to walk off away from the tents. And I think the shot we switch to is most of the group walking kind of just into the snow, into this hilly terrain that's back west. And in the foreground, on the edge of this campable terrain, is Thane stopping with Gloa near the edge of the camp.
I'm not going to be gone any longer than I have to be, and we will bring Mildred back. Are you going to be okay?
The gods will protect me.
I'm worried about the things the gods can't protect you from.
Listen, there's a lot of people in the camp. You don't have to do everything, Mother. I understand that I'm asking a lot of you, and I really appreciate what you're doing. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be telling you more? I don't know. I don't know.
Thane interrupts her, putting a hand on her hands on her shoulders. You've done the right thing. We're going to bring her home. You can tell her parents that. And it's never wise to break a promise. You've said enough to get her home. Now, you need to look after yourself, and don't let Einar bully you while I'm gone. And,
She jumps forward, hugs you.
Thane wraps her arms around her, hugging her back.
I love you, Mother. It'll be okay.
I love you too. And Thane reluctantly lets her go and pauses there a moment before she's able to will her feet to start moving after the rest of the group, still exchanging glances back towards Gloa.
We cut to an extreme wide shot as Thane jogs to catch up with the rest of the group. It's a sea of white, and behind the snow, the mountains in the distance. The right of the frame is just the edge of the camp, with Gloa standing there. It cuts in close on her as she sighs. She turns back around and looks up to the banner hanging nearby on a pole, the flag of her home, the flag of the Ill Omens. Thank you for listening to Omen's Call. This show was produced by Alex Horrell, who portrayed Avery Darling. You can find him on Twitter at Alex Horrell. Zaros was played by Marshall Sims at Mr. Malicious1 on Twitter. Biome was brought to life by Cameron Reed, who you can find at CJReed211. And all of those guys, along with me, can be found on our other podcast, a Deadlands Reloaded actual play, at soundslikecrows.com, or search Sounds Like Crows wherever you're listening to this podcast. Freya was played by Katie George, who is not on Twitter, but you can find her on our Discord. Thane was played by Christine Chester at 12th Night. She has two other podcasts. The first is The Glass Dagger, which is a D&D 5th edition actual play, and it can be found at CompleteNight.com. Her other podcast, Heroes of the Hydian Way, a Star Wars FFG actual play, can be found at thehydianway.com. Hydian, for you non-Star Wars fans, is spelled Hydian. For updates on the show, follow us on Twitter at OmensCallPod. And I guess that's it. Catch you next time, y'all.